my name is Alex Prado.
And I am Sofia Cortez. And we would like to speak to you today about an extremely important court case
that helped reshape the history of Orange County, the state of California, and the nation.
That court case was Mendez versus Westminster School District.
In the 1940s, segregation was widespread. All across the United States, there were school districts that would discriminate based on the color of one's skin or their ethnic background. Often, when one thinks about institutionalized segregation, they think of African Americans in the South. But right here in Orange County, Mexican Americans were being discriminated against by the Westminster, Garden Grove, El Modena, and Santa Ana school districts.
When the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed in 1848, Mexican Americans were legally defined as white and were supposed to have all the same protections and rights that were afforded to Anglo-Americans. It is because of this that local municipalities and school districts had to get creative when it came to institutionalizing discrimination against Hispanics and Latinos in the American Southwest. School districts began to make policy that separated Mexican Americans because they supposedly could not keep up with Anglo-American students because of their linguistic and cultural differences.
In 1945, a lawsuit was brought in federal court to stop the discriminatory practices of school districts in California. The suit was actually brought by 5 different families: the Mendez family, the Estrada family, the Guzman family, the Palomino family, and the Ramirez family. Even though all of these families deserve credit for their heroic actions in standing up to these unconscionable school district policies, because the Mendez family just happened to be listed first, they have gotten nearly all of the notoriety.
We would all be in the same bus, the other children, and they would drop us off in front of the white school, this beautiful manicured lawn school with palm trees and a wonderful playground right there in the front with swings. And then we had to walk to the Mexican school. The school books were all handed down, so they'd be torn, and we were being taught how to be good maids. We were being taught how to clean, how to sew, how to quilt. We weren't being taught academics.
The story of the Mendez family is actually a very interesting one. In the 1930s, the family moved to Santa Ana and found success after opening a bar and operating an asparagus farm. Even though they were quite successful, the Mendezes still lived through a time that was rife with discrimination and segregation.
In the 1940s, there were only 2 schools in Westminster: Hoover Elementary and 17th Street Elementary. And you wouldn't know it today, but this municipal corporation yard for the city of Westminster was once the site of Hoover Elementary. Hoover was the Mexican school, and it was a wooden, rundown school that did not have the resources that 17th Street had.
This may look like a Lexus dealership, because it is. But this was where 17th Street Elementary once stood. Because 17th was much better off than Hoover, the Mendez family decided to enroll their children here. But when Soledad Vidari, the sister of Gonzalo Mendez, showed up here to register both her children and her brother's children, her kids were allowed to enroll because they had fair skin and a French last name. But the Mendez children were denied admission to the school.
As you can imagine, Miss Vidar was furious, and even though her kids would have been allowed to enroll, she refused out of solidarity with her brother, sister-in-law, nieces, and nephews. Eventually, after the Mendezes had decided to sue, Westminster tried to quietly make the whole thing go away by allowing the Mendez children to attend 17th Street School while still blocking all other Mexican American children from attending.
The Mendez family declined the offer because they not only wanted to help themselves and their family, but the entire Mexican American community as well. The lawsuits made it all the way up to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco, and it was there that the court case was decided.
As a 9-year-old girl, all I was thinking is, when we went to court, that they were fighting for me to go to this beautiful school, never realizing exactly what they were fighting for. What was going on in Westminster was not right.
1996.
LA Times, and has been. We had a judge in Los Angeles called Judge McCormick, who said that separate is never equal, and it had like a ripple effect all over Southern California. The theaters were eventually integrated, and housing became easier to move to different areas. And I'll never forget the first day I walked into that school, and this little boy comes up to me and he says, "You're a Mexican. What are you Mexicans doing here? Don't you know that Mexicans don't belong in the school? You're not supposed to be in the school." When that boy said that to me, I felt this pain in my heart, like somebody had stabbed me. I felt so hurt, so humiliated that I started crying. And I go home and I tell my mother, "Mother, I don't want to be in that school. They don't want us there. They don't want Mexicans there." And my mother said to me, "Sylvia, weren't you aware of what we were fighting for all this time? You were there in court every day. Don't you know exactly what we wanted for you? We wanted for you to know that you are just as equal as that boy. That's what we were fighting for you. For you not to feel humiliated, for you not to feel inferior, because under God, you're just as good as he is."
The district court initially ruled in favor of Mendez and the other families. Westminster then appealed to the Ninth Circuit, and the appeals court sided with Mendez as well. Future Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall wrote on behalf of the NAACP in support of the Mendez family, and once the decision was made, Governor of California Earl Warren signed into law the repeal of segregationist statutes in the California State Code.
By the time 1954 rolled around, Earl Warren had made his way all the way to the Supreme Court, and Thurgood Marshall was the lead attorney for the NAACP, arguing before Warren and the Supreme Court in the landmark case, Brown versus the Board of Education.
The legacy of the Mendez case cannot be overstated. While it never made it to the Supreme Court, it helped do away with institutionalized segregation and discrimination in the state of California,
and helped set the precedent that led to the desegregation of schools nationwide.
Today, the Mendez family is remembered for their brave stance against discrimination, and I think I speak for everyone when I say that I am proud that they were from Santa Ana just like me.
And me. The Mendez court case was also honored at the highest level when Sylvia Mendez, the once little girl that tried to enroll at 17th Street School, was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama.
It is important to reflect on the impact the Mendezes and those 4 other families had on Santa Ana, Westminster, Orange County, the state of California,
and the nation. These brave families risked a lot to fight for what was right, and for that, they deserve our eternal gratitude and admiration.
For Sylvia Mendez, a lifelong quest for equality began when she was just 8 years old. Outraged that their daughter had to attend a segregated school, Sylvia's parents linked arms with other Latino families to fight injustice in a California federal court, a case that would pave the way for Brown versus Board of Education. The next year, when a classmate taunted Sylvia saying that Mexicans didn't belong there, she went home in tears begging to leave the school. Her mother wouldn't have it. She told Sylvia, "Don't you realize that's why we went to court? You're just as good as he is." And Sylvia took those words to heart. And ever since, she has made it her mission to spread a message of tolerance and opportunity to children of all backgrounds and all walks of life.
Sylvia Mendez. Sylvia Mendez was thrust to the forefront of the civil rights movement when she was just a child. Denied entry to the Westminster School because of her Mexican heritage, she sought justice, and her subsequent legal case, Mendez versus Westminster, effectively ended segregation as a matter of law in California. The arguments in that case catalyzed the desegregation of our schools and prevailed in the landmark case, Brown versus Board of Education, forever changing our nation. Today, Sylvia Mendez continues to share her remarkable story and advocate for excellence and equality in classrooms across America.